Hello friends and welcome to Edupedia World Videos. This is the chapter 13 part A of the course Basics of Programming in C language, and in this part what we will be doing is we will be covering string handling in C language. Okay, so first of all, how strings are handled in C language. Guys, unlike the other languages where we have some dedicated data types for storing strings, in C language there is no dedicated data type because C is a very basic language. Okay, so since we know that strings are formed by a combination of various characters. Strings are nothing but words and sentences. So words and sentences can be formed by the combination of various characters. So what we assume in C is that strings can be stored in the character arrays, because array is a data type, a derived data type in C language, which can store a number of elements of the other data types. Okay, but all the elements should be of the same data type. So we can use arrays to store strings in C, character arrays to store strings in C. Okay, so one thing that we have to remember in these things is that in C the array indexes are not hard bound. That means the compiler does not check whether you are passing an index which is within the limits of the array or not. Okay, so you can also, if you have declared an array of the size 10, its indices by default, the valid indices would be from 0 to 9, okay, for 10 elements. But you can also pass an index 14 or 15, because internally compiler takes your array name as a pointer and it will just add 15 memory blocks to the base pointer and then try to access the memory somewhere over there. Okay, it might cause a serious trouble if you do such kind of illegal memory accessing. So in that case string arrays can create problems. So what solution did the programmers came out with? The solution was that we will have a null character at the end of every string or every character array that has to be used for storing a string. So strings must be null terminated character arrays. That is what we have to remember. Now let us see in a small animation how this string hello will be stored inside C language. First of all, this is a 5-letter word, so we need how many character arrays, how many characters? We need 5 characters for that. Okay, so first of all we will have a space, memory space of 5 characters. So this is our memory space, and the indexes which are in C language for arrays begin from 0. Okay, so for 5 memory blocks the indexes would be from 0 to 4. Okay, 0 to 4. So this is our memory space where we will be able to store this string hello. Okay, so how it will be stored? It will be stored like this. First, or the 0th index would store the first element, that is H. Then first index would store the second element, that is E. Similarly, on the second index or the third place we will store L, then again an L, and then at last at the fourth index or the last memory space we will store O, hello. But now if we use it as it is inside C and we try to pass this string to a function, a C library function that is for string, what it will do is it will start its work from here. Suppose we have passed this to a function strlen. Now strlen is a function that is used to calculate the length of a string in C. Okay, so it will calculate the length of this particular word hello. What it will do, it will start its processing from here. It will process character 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But since it does not know where to stop, it will continue to count the characters. What it will do, it will first increment the pointer to from 0 to 1, increment the pointer one more address space from 1 to 2, 3, 4, then it will again increment to 5, and it will keep on incrementing until or unless it finds a null character. Now if you are lucky, the 5th space can be that it is not used by any other variable, so it will be free for you, and in that case it can be null also. And in case it is null, then it will correctly interpret this as a string hello, but it is most unlikely that it will be null. So the chances are that it will have some garbage value over here. So your C compiler will not come to know that your string is ending over here at this O. So it will go to the 5th index, then 6th, 7th, and in case during this traversing it accesses some memory that is not a part of your program, okay, not assigned to this particular program that you have made, in that case your program will cause an illegal exception and it will be killed by the operating system. So in these cases our string arrays can be very deadly for your program. So you have to keep in mind that you have to terminate your string by a null character. So for storing strings we need one additional memory location. If you want to store a string of 5 characters, you need an additional memory location. Okay, and on this memory location you will store the null character or the \0 character, and this character has an ASCII code of 0. Okay, so this is how we actually store the strings in C language. Now suppose your C compiler starts checking over here, so it will check for the first character, then second, third, fourth, and at last it will find this null character. So wherever it will find this particular null character \0 or ASCII value of 0, it will assume that the string has ended. So it will now return the length as 5. Okay, so that is how string functions work on C. So it is very important to pass only those character arrays which are null terminated. If you declare strings yourself, so you should ensure that your character arrays are null terminated. If you are getting those strings passed to your function by an argument of a, or you are reading that particular string from the memory somewhere, so you should ensure if there is no null at the end of the string, you should append a null character at the last index. Okay, so these are some of the example functions of string handling in C which are most frequently used. Okay, these are defined in the header file string.h inside C language. Okay, so in this header file string.h, the functions that are defined are basically used for string processing or string manipulation. Okay, these are very basic functions. First of the function that we are discussing is strlen. What this function does, this function will accept an argument as a character pointer and it will calculate the length of that particular word inside that pointer. So it will return the number of characters till it finds the \null character. So it will return the characters before \n. Then we have the strcpy or strncpy functions. So what does strcpy do? It copies one string to another string. Okay, in C you cannot write straight away that okay a is equal to, in double quotes you write hello. So that is not valid for C language unless or until you are in the initialization phase. While initializing a character pointer or while initializing a string variable in C language, you can do that. Okay, you can do char star a is equal to hello, but while you want within the program to change that value of that particular character pointer, you have to use this function strcpy, and we will learn it through practical session on afterwards that how to do that. Okay, so for the time being we are just going through the functions. And what is strncpy? Okay, most of the functions, as these 4 functions we can see over here, are just similar, like strcpy, then strncpy, similarly strcat and strncat. Now what is the difference between these two is that in the second one we specify the number of characters on which the operation has to be performed. Now why this is used is just another measure to avoid your index overriding. Okay, so it avoids that okay you don't go beyond these many number of characters. Suppose you do not find a null character inside a string which you are trying to copy, so stop after n characters, and this n will specify to this function in the argument. Okay, and this we will be learning in a short while in a practical session. Okay, then this is strcat or str string concatenation. Okay, this means that we append one string after the other string. So this is also given in this function. Then we have sprintf. Now what is sprintf? Sprintf is just a contrary function or just an analogous function to printf. Okay, in printf we print on console, but in sprintf we print into a particular string. Okay, so whatever you enter into the arguments of the printf, in case of sprintf, it will go into a string variable. So we will also try this function in our practical session. And then we have strchr, which does nothing but it searches for this particular character inside the string. Okay, so if you want to find out, suppose in this character, in this functions, string functions, I want to find out the position at which n character is there. So I will call this function strchr and it will return me the index of the character n. Okay, similarly for str, what does it do? It returns me the pointer at which a particular string occurs inside an other string. Suppose inside this complete string, some string functions, we want to find the occurrence of string. Okay, so I can use this particular function and it will return me the pointer to this particular location from where string is starting. Okay, so this will also do inside our practical sessions. And another function is string tokenizer, strtok. So what is the tokenizer? It actually breaks the strings into a set of substrings depending on a tokenizer that we give it. Suppose we give the same string, some string functions, and we want to tokenize it word by word. That means we want to separate the words out of this sentence. So we can give space, white space as a tokenizer, and what it will do is it will break this particular string into 3 words, some, string, and functions. Okay, this we will also do in the practical session. So let us start our practical session by the use of this function strlen. Okay, so let me switch to the CodeBlocks IDE so that we can start working on the practical sessions. Okay, so I am starting a new project over here. Okay, and it would be a console application. Obviously the compiler that you have to select is the C compiler. Project title we can give it as str length. Okay, now next and finish. So my project has been instantiated and this is the default main file. I have to remove this printf statement over here because I do not need it anymore. Now we have to use a function strlen inside this. Okay, so some header files are already included. One is stdio.h, which is standard input output.h, which includes the function for standard input and output, which are printf and scanf, etc. Another file stdlib.h I will not be using, so instead of this I will include my string.h file. Okay, string.h. Now string.h header file will have all those functions that we will be using right now. So let us first try and see how to declare a variable for a string. Okay, so a string is a character array, so we will declare a character array. So suppose char name, and we have to specify the index of the length of this array, the number of characters that we want to store. So suppose a name can be composed of maximum say 30 characters, so have 30 as the length, and we initialize it to a null string. So by double quotes you can specify a null string, so that means that it contains nothing when we initialize it using a null string. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to store some value inside it. So how we will store it? We have learned that either you initialize it at this time only, okay, that we can do like this. In that case, if we initialize it with a value, we don't need to specify the size, we don't need to specify the number of elements, because the compiler will itself calculate the number of elements inside the string by looking at the value that you have specified. So suppose I want to store a name Rajesh into this, so that is how I can explicitly specify the value. So this is one way, but here we want to study about the other way inside C language, and that is a function that we have just done right now, which is strcpy. So we will use the function strcpy to copy the characters inside this variable name. Okay, so we will use strcpy. So what does strcpy do? First of all, let us study its format, its prototype. It is strcpy char star. So char star is nothing but a char pointer, okay, in which we want to store this variable, store the value, we want to copy the value. So this is the output variable or to which the value will be copied, and then we have a constant char star this is from where the value will be copied. And why is this constant keyword over here? When we prefix the constant keyword to any variable while declaration or while the specifying the function arguments, this constant keyword means that this particular value cannot be altered. So this character pointer will not be alterable inside this function. Okay, so this is just to prevent the original value from not changing throughout the code. Okay, so that is why this constant keyword is used over here. So the prototype is char start. That means first we have to specify the character pointer in which we have to copy the string value. So we have to copy the value in name. So this name of an array is always a pointer. So that is how we specify the first our output pointer, and then we have to give a constant string. So either constant string we can give it through a variable if we have it stored in a variable. If we don't have it in a variable, you can specify it explicitly. So let us write Rajesh over here in double quotes. Okay, so strings are always given in double quotes inside C language. So this will copy Rajesh inside the variable name. Okay, so this much we have done. Now what we have to do is, now we will try and calculate the length of this string and then try and print it. Okay, so to calculate the length of the string is, the function is strlen. Okay, and inside this we have to give the name of our variable in which string is stored, that is name. Now we have to store this length somewhere, so let us take a variable. Now length is a type integer, so let us take an integer variable, name it as length, and initialize it to 0. Now this length will be stored in the variable length. Okay, now we will print the string as well as its length. Here we will print the length of the string. Now see, in C language, although there is no data type for strings, but we have a format specifier for printing strings, so that is %s. Okay, so the length of the string %s is, then we will print the length, and the data type of length is integer, so we'll have another format specifier %d. Now we have to remember that we have to give our variables in the same sequence as we have given their respective format specifiers. So first we have to give the string variable, which is name, and at the end we have to give the integer variable, which is length. Okay, now let us try and save this code and then try to run it. Just try and compile it first. If it compiles, builds successfully, then we will execute it. Okay, so it is now building. It has built with 0 errors and 0 warnings. Now to execute this, let me press this main button over here, and the console window has now come up. Okay, so you can see over here it is printing the length of the string Rajesh is 6. Okay, so it has worked correctly. Now let me explain one thing. I told you that we have to ensure that our strings inside C language are always null terminated, but here I have not specified any null character at the end of Rajesh. Why? Because the function strcpy itself copies a null character at the end of my variable. Okay, now when will it cause an error? Suppose my length of the string is 6. Okay, Rajesh is 6 characters long. If inside name I have only space for 6 characters, in that case what will happen, it will not find any space to copy the null character or \n character, and in that case we can have issues over here. Okay, so we have to ensure that we always accommodate the null character. So if we have to copy a string which has a maximum possible length of 6 characters, we should use the length of 7. Similarly, if you have a string which has a maximum possible length of 30 characters, then we should use it as 31. Okay, so this was a basic introduction to string manipulation in C language, and in our forthcoming videos what we will do is we will try and use each of those functions that we have discussed about string manipulation, and we will also try to create a useful project out of it. So I hope you understood whatever we did in this video, we discussed in this tutorial. So thanks for watching and continue to watch the course Basics of Programming in C language.